Today I'm going to share with you how to do intermittent fasting for weight loss. Hi, I'm Shelley. This is Fabulous 50s, a lifestyle channel for women over 50. And if you're a woman over 50, click subscribe and click the bell and you'll be alerted every time there's a new video and they'll all relate to you. Have you been thinking about going down the path of intermittent fasting? If you're like me, you're confused by all of the information out there. It can be kind of too confusing to even get started, but I did, and I've been doing it for most of this year, and I've got some really good results, and I wanted to share them with you. What I've noticed is a reduction in weight, but in my belly fat. So that was a huge bonus. I've noticed I'm sleeping really soundly, very well. Clarity, mental clarity has increased, and my energy levels are really high. So these are things that have happened while I've been intermittent fasting, and I pretty much think that this is for me, and I'll continue doing it. The great thing about intermittent fasting is you don't have to be on a diet. That's what I love. And it doesn't have to be obsessive and strict. So if you can restrict to the times that you eat during the day, you can be a lot more free with what you eat. I started experimenting with intermittent fasting for longevity, but I lost my belly fat. So I was super happy with that. The people that I was following in the longevity fields were using intermittent fasting as a tool for longevity. And Professor David Sinclair said something that really resonated with me. He said there's no exact science for humans with intermittent fasting. But what he did say is that the tests done on mice and on yeast showed that a 30% decrease in caloric intake equaled a 30% increase in lifespan for the tests. So I jumped on board and did it the way that felt good for me, for my body. And I took all of the information that I could find out there and applied it to myself, and I think I found the answer. So I'm going to show you what I did, how I did it, and some little tips and tricks that I found that help you get through the hard part, which is hunger, clearly. There's 4 ways plus that you can do intermittent fasting. The first way is 12 hours fasting and 12 hours eating window. The second one is 8 hours eating window and 16 hours fasting. The third one is 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating. And then you can go on to 24 hours of fasting, or 48 hours, or 36. If you're new to intermittent fasting, I'd absolutely recommend you start with a 12-hour fast, because you've got to get your mindset right for doing this kind of thing. And 12 hours is really easy. You stop eating at 8 p.m., for example, and you don't eat again until 8 o'clock the next morning. And that's giving your body 12 hours without food. And when you don't have food in your tummy and your body doesn't have to digest food, that's when all the work can start happening. And if you're just starting, I do that 12-hour fast for 1 week. Prepare your body, get it used to not eating. And the hardest thing for me, for sure, was not eating and snacking at night time, because it was really hard not to. But once I set my mind to it, that was the hard part for me, and then I overcame that obstacle, and then the next part, waking up, wasn't so hard not to eat. So give that a try first. When your body's used to that, try and go for another 4 hours. So instead of eating at 8 a.m., try waiting till 12 noon. If you can do that, it's going to give you a lot more benefits, because your body is fasting for a longer period of time. And when your body doesn't have to do any work at all to process the food that you're putting into it, that's when it can work on healing you, making you feel good and giving you energy. And then when your body is completely prepared and you feel right, you can try only eating for 4 hours in the day. So that would be waiting till like 2 p.m. to start eating and finish eating at 6 p.m. So I wouldn't recommend you go out and try that until you're ready, but it's certainly a goal to set because the benefits are huge. Here's some side notes. You don't have to intermittent fast every day. You can do this at your own pace. You can design a program to suit yourself depending on what you can handle. So I would set a blanket rule around 8 and 8. Do that forever because it's really good for you. But to go the next step, you can do that every other day, so every second day, or you can include a 4-hour eating window once a week. But because that sounds really big when you're just getting started, I wouldn't worry about that. I would just say to you to get started 12 and then aim for 16. Happy days. Intermittent fasting puts our body into a very good, healthy stress. And when we stress our bodies in this way, we go into fight-flight mode, and that produces cortisol. And we think cortisol is a bad thing, but when you release cortisol in a fasted state, you burn fat, and that's how we lose weight. But if you release cortisol when you're eating and your stomach's full, that's when you gain fat. So that's the difference. And the goal is to stress our body in a very safe way, to burn fat, feel very, very good, and reverse the aging process. If you can make it through till noon, from 8 p.m. till noon, that means that you've eliminated one meal for the day, which equals 30% of your food intake, technically, if you're not snacking all day. And weight loss comes from 80% eating less and 20% exercise. And here's what I love. The animal test showed that the mice still had an increased lifespan of 30%, even though they overate for the times that they weren't fasting. So what does that mean? That means that it's not so much important what you eat, but when you eat. And if we can reduce the amount of time that we're spending each day eating and processing and digesting our food, that's the key to living longer, living more healthy, and having more vitality. Keep in mind though that what you eat today is going to determine your health tomorrow. So clean eating, yes. Processed food, no. Because your health is the most valuable asset that you will ever own. When you're intermittent fasting, your body's not producing these insulin spikes all day because you're not eating for a period of time. And insulin tells your cells that fuel is coming, so they don't open up to receive glucose. So the sugar stays in the bloodstream, and if that sugar's not used, it's stored as fat cells. So you end up gaining weight because there's not a long enough period of not eating. And bottom line, if you want to lose weight, you got to reduce your calories. So this is a really good controlled way to do that. We've got to eat less and exercise more. I know it's hard to do, but doing intermittent fasting kind of sets up some guidelines for you. One of the things that is so beneficial and unexpected for me was the quality of sleep. Going back to the insulin spikes, when you go to sleep on an empty stomach, so that means 4 hours of no food before you hit the pillow, your body is actually able to do the work it was meant to do when it's asleep, rather than actually digest all of that food that you've eaten. So that job has been taken care of. Now your body's job is to really produce human growth hormone. And human growth hormone is produced when our insulin levels are low. And we produce insulin when we eat. So we haven't eaten for 4 hours. We're asleep. A lot of women in menopause can't get to sleep, or they get to sleep and then they can't stay asleep. So if that's a problem for you and you have insomnia and just a really hard time sleeping, try this. Even if you're not going to fast, just try not eating for 4 hours before you go to sleep. Makes a huge difference. But back to the growth hormone, it's a way for you to regulate your metabolism and your muscle repair. And higher growth hormone while we're sleeping equals more fat loss. All of this will really help your body adjust hormone levels to make stored body fat more accessible and easier to burn. Really, if you haven't tried intermittent fasting and you're having trouble sleeping, give it a go. It doesn't hurt that much. It really doesn't. One thing I'm going to say that you may not like is that wine and alcohol is going to give you a spike, and that will affect your sleep and your production of growth hormone. So when you're intermittent fasting, you have to have your wine and your alcohol with dinner. And when you stop eating, you stop drinking. As well as weight loss and mental clarity, we have the anti-aging and longevity benefits of intermittent fasting. And one of the really cool things that your body does when it's fasting is it goes into autophagy. And autophagy is when the body starts eating itself. So when the cells start eating the cells. This is triggered by calorie reduction, and this helps clean the body of old, broken cell membranes, which may be impeding our optimal performance. It's essentially a recycling process, so we're getting rid of the old and rejuvenating with the new. Now I'm going to share some things with you that I did to keep me on track. First thing you've got to do is decide that you're going to commit to this for a period of time to see how your body feels. And my first challenge was to practice not eating at night. But I kept in my mind what David Sinclair said, is that feeling hungry is a good thing. It's a good stress for your body. And then I thought to myself, I want to feel good and I want to have lots of energy and I want to be bursting out of my skin, actually. So I used that hunger as my little reward to myself. I thought, if I'm hungry, A, I can eat shortly, and B, I'm doing something really good for my body and it's going to pass. The hunger passes. And speaking of hunger, a trick that I learned that actually works is taking Himalayan rock salt and putting it under your tongue and just letting it dissolve. It kind of tricks your body into thinking it's been fed. And another thing that's really important is when you break your fast, so the first thing that you eat, particularly if you're on a longer fast, a 16 or 20-hour fast, is to eat some protein first. Then wait a little bit and then you can incorporate carbohydrates and fat after that. But you don't just go in after your fast and eat a whole ton of food. You gently ease your body into having food and then eat within your eating period and enjoy your food and have beautiful, delicious food, and try not to overeat and gorge yourself because this is a lifestyle. It's something you can actually do forever. If you start feeling better, you'll know it's working for you. If you start losing some weight, you'll know it's working for you. And if you start sleeping better at night, you'll know it's working for you. I think we're at the perfect age to experiment with our bodies. We're at the perfect age to experiment with everything because we're doing life differently than our mothers did and our grandmothers did. So don't you love knowing that? Make your own rules, enjoy your life, enjoy your food, and enjoy creating a body that feels good. Please give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching and have a beautiful day.